What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Tech Backstage. Sorry, my internet just cut out there for a second as well. But my name's Eddie, here with my co-host Tulio and Beth Porter, our guest today from Esme Learning. How you doing, Beth?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. So, Beth, good to see you again. We've bumped into each other several times over the years at conferences, so it's great to have you here on Tech Backstage. And we're talking about inclusion today, one of our favorite topics, the importance of engagement in online learning for achieving inclusive community. It's a big topic, so let's see what we can learn and unpack. But before we do that, we'd love to hear your story. Tell us about yourself and how you ended up at your current company. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks for being with us again.
Yeah, no, it's great to see you again, Tulio. It's always nice to have some in-person experiences peppered in with all of the online time that we all spend together. So it was good to see you in person at ASU GSV earlier this year. So my background is really a lifelong ed tech person. There's lots of different roles in any education technology company, and I sort of started from really ground zero working on content right out of college and into my first job as a high school teacher. I was really interested in how technology and teaching intersected, and I thought there was a lot of potential without a lot of realization of that potential. So even as I was trying to incorporate new technologies, and at that time, I am going to date myself right now, but at that time we were using TI calculators and like temperature probes and some pretty rudimentary graphing software and some other crummy tools. But anyway, we sort of soldiered on to get some of that stuff in our classroom. I thought, you know what, this is a very slow path to adoption and to really changing the way that people think about education technologies. And I can have a very small revolution inside my own classroom, but I would like to have more impact than that. So I left high school, K-12 teaching, and I went into education technologies at that time and really started to explore what the web had to offer, how to move away from hard media into more dynamic forms of presentation, interactivity, learning through doing things on websites was like novel at that time. And so it's exciting for me to see, to have a bigger palette, a bigger space to play in. And that was why I moved away from teaching initially and into education technologies. A really formative time in my career was spent at Pearson Education. I think we've talked about this in the past a little bit, but one of the things that it really taught me more than anything else was how to scale. So it was really, it was the next level of scale for me, moving from being a classroom teacher into just being an ed tech in general, but then being inside of a kind of a small boutique kind of ed tech company into being like the biggest ed tech company essentially on the planet at that time. It was like another level of growth for me. And I learned a lot just by understanding what are all the ways in which you want to be a vanguard of new ideas, but there are always compromises when you have to go to scale. So it's something I've really thought a lot about in my whole career. And when I moved to edX after being at Pearson, again, a different, interesting, new kind of scale challenge, keeping it personal, keeping it learner-oriented, but delivering at a very, very high scale. So that's a little bit about me. I also still teach. I teach in college. I teach an IT strategies course in the business school at BU. And this keeps me kind of lively and nimble with my teaching skills, even as I'm working mostly in software and technologies.
Keep the finger on the pulse. So tell us what Esme Learning is all about, how you ended up here. I think your company got acquired, right? Tell us a little bit about what you guys do.
Yeah, when I left edX, I moved into the media lab in a small research team there working on interaction technologies. And the platform that we invented and then we left the lab with starting the company was Riff riff platform, and it comes from the metaphor of riffing with other people, right? If you're a musician and you're in a jazz group and you sort of look over at somebody and they give you this unsaid signal to continue their phrase or their movement, that sort of came from that idea that there are all kinds of interesting things happening when you interact with others, that you use lots of different kinds of sensing to understand, and then you take action, right? It's how you interact with one another when you meet, that is a lot of how your relationship evolves. And so the Rift platform measures those interactions through the video and text chat medium, and then gives you reflective feedback so that you can understand, hey, I really have a great rapport back and forth with some members of my team or some members of my learning group, or whatever your unit of work is, and maybe not such great rapport with others, and that's something I can pay attention to and continue working on. So we took the Ref platform, we used it a lot in learning contexts, and one of the learning contexts we used it in was in Esme Learning's online professional development courses. And that group, Esme Learning, is really all about trying to help professionals learn a new set of skills to face all of the different challenges associated with digital disruption and the tech transformation of just about any industry you can think of. So Esme thinks of itself really as an online learning platform and course, sort of course development shop, but also as a technology transformation company that's really helping the workforce learn a new set of skills. And we do that through learning programs. And RIF, the RIF platform that gives you all that reflective information about yourself, is a deeply embedded part of those experiences. So RIF was acquired by Esme, and now I'm the president and COO of Esme Learning.
Very
Congratulations.
cool.
Sounds
That's
like
awesome.
Thank
based
you.
on the software and digital eating the world, it's like a survivalist boot camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some sense it really is, right? What you're trying to do is your skill set needs to be so multivarious when you start to think about the ways in which your industry is probably evolving, whether it's already starting its evolution or just on the cusp of starting some, sort of technology transformation precipitated by new technologies. You need to learn not just what that technology is, but how to make thoughtful decisions around that technology, how to learn how to lead teams who may feel trepidation about a new set of technologies, may feel under threat because of them, how to read the business conditions that are associated with any new technology. And that can be everything from how your customer base is going to respond to it, to what the ethical considerations are, or governance. It's just, nothing is uncomplicated. And so the courses that I know it's double negative, sorry, but the courses that we offer at Esme Learning are meant to be multifaceted in that same way, to kind of put you into that seat of having to learn quickly, read all of the facets of these various problems that you may be faced with in your business context, and then make good decisions, and then learn how to socialize them, and really come to a place where everybody can embrace a new technology and not be fearful of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think, one of the things that I see a lot too, especially with, just like you're talking about the digital transformation of all of these different industries, as somebody who's built software for a while now, if there's anybody who is the right person to actually take an industry or take a company and transform it in digitally, is somebody who's already been there, right? Like I've done a lot of work with companies in the construction and the oil and gas company, trying to help them digitally transform their companies. And it's hard work understanding like how you're actually going to take this and turn it into a digital format, right? And just down to even understanding how people use applications in field settings. And so there's this huge amount of opportunity for people. And, Beth, you had a really good point, is that, people are scared of this change. But as somebody who's been in technology a while now, I don't know if there's really the necessity or the need to be scared if you're willing to go out and learn. I mean, I think you can be the person who actually facilitates the change, right?
That's right. Yeah, and I think you're in a much better position, even if even if your scope, right, the place that you live in the organization is down in the bowels, right? Even as much as you have the opportunity to influence or lead groups of people at any level of your organization, there's something to be said to be the person who embraces that set of new ideas and helps to socialize and further them so that everybody can have a chance to understand them and learn before they just leap into the next thing. Because learning is really the difference between a company that's going to stay ahead of this incredibly steep curve of new
Yep.
technologies and the company that's going to be stagnant and sort of fail to make progress. You've got to teach the people in your company what to do, not just to learn a specific set of skills, but what to do when confronted with the next thing to learn and the next thing to learn and the next thing to learn. So that organizational resilience that goes down to every single member of the company, not just leaders, everybody.
Well, and I think too, like I used to be an audio engineer, so we used to always talk about signal flow. Like if you're not getting sound out of the speakers, you start with the microphone and then you work your way back to the cable and, until you get all the way to the board and you're like, okay, I guess the board's broken. But a lot of what you're talking about right now is, it's problem solving at its
Yes.
most basic level, right? And talking about getting into the guts of an organization and the people there. When you're making a transformation like this, those are the people that can sit down and go, oh, hey, actually, we need to solve it in this way because of these intricacies that happen over here, or the things that happen over here, or how like once a year, these two things interact. And we have to take that into consideration when building both of these separate parts of the module, because that one time that they talk to each other, it's imperative that they work together. Right. So, but I think what you just said is a really great segue into what we're actually talking about right now, because you talked about the bowels of an organization and you talked about like getting down into the depths of an organization. And a lot of times, or at least in my experience, a lot of these kind of training programs or these transition programs, they're not necessarily offered to everybody, or they're not necessarily immediately available to people. Maybe there's people that work out, in East Texas that don't have great internet connections, or, they're not people that grew up around computers, or, but they're people that should still, they do a great job. They're smart people. They should still have the opportunity to learn and to make these transitions. And so I think it's a really great segue into talking about, what we came here to talk about, which is inclusion, and how do we start including people in organizations and getting them the necessary training and information that they need to, to contribute and to be included in these programs.
Yeah. Well, I think let's start with the first thing that we observe about the market, which is the content. We'll get to people and process and how that kind of everything flows from that, sort of place. With content, one of the things that we noticed early on in thinking about the kind of content that we wanted to offer, the way it gets delivered, how we, talk about the various topics and what topics we even discuss, like why are we not teaching? We're not teaching JavaScript. We're not teaching programming. We're not like in boot camp style, hey, you better learn how to program now or you're dead. None of that stuff. Because there is a lot of hysteria around programming. Like, this is like, you better learn it or, you're going to become obsolete. But the fact of the matter is that most content is not really, the fault is not with the actual subject matter itself for the most part. It's how it gets designed and delivered in order to compel engagement in the topic. So most people are aware that there is a long-standing, persistent, and still unresponded to sort of criticism of a lot of teaching in universities, which is that it's stand and deliver. It's not particularly engaging. And a lot of people fall away because they just don't feel compelled by the learning moment that is being created, which is not compelling, right? They don't really get engaged because it's not a responsive, it's not a generative way of learning. One of the things that we do in our courses is that we create generative learning, which is that people are in the learning experience to generate ideas and then to carry them with them out of the course and into their jobs. That is the whole entire point of an Esme course, is to learn how to do that, not just in the context of the thing that you're learning at that moment, but to carry it with you as a philosophy and a way of operating from there on out. So this idea of the course being something where you create knowledge together with others, this is a key concept of all Esme learning courses. And
I love that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we use the software platform that we have to ensure that everybody is involved in that generation. And this is where inclusion comes in.
Does that not only help in engagement, but also in the learning process itself?
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay, so how is it that you guys do this digitally? That seems like something that's easier to do in person or in a intimate setting. How does that get accomplished?
There's a few things. Yeah. So online, obviously we have the mediums that we have. We have chat, we have text, chat and video chat, and we have discussion boards, and but really the thing that we do to help make inclusion more likely in courses that we offer is that we have this AI coach, which is part of the Rift platform, that is how learners get feedback about their participation, both in real time while they're in a meeting with their cohort, right? When they're in a team meeting working on a group project, and when the meeting is over, they'll get a more elaborated set of observations and recommendations about how to be a better participant the next time they get together with their group. And so this continuous feedback mechanism is how we speed the time to trust for teams that are meeting for the first time online. They're never going to meet in person, at least not in the context of this course. And we need them to work collaboratively together very, very quickly. So that's really how we use the software to help enable that inclusive, collective intelligence that gets created when we're coaching people in the courses.
I was going to say just really quick, when we were on the call with Everaldo talking about inclusion, I was always talking about how it goes back to involving people from the start. But Beth, you're taking it even a step further, because I was talking about we just got to get people into these learning situations, but you're talking about even the learning situation itself has to be inclusive, and the course has to be designed. And that, to me, that's mind blowing, because I was we just got to get people into the classroom, but
but then what happens when they're in the classroom?
But then they're in the classroom and they're not engaging in their, they're getting distracted. That's a mind blowing revelation to me.
There should be a version of it that's sarcastic, that says, "You're being dead wood right now. Can you please participate?" Like a little message that says, "Wake up, stop texting, participate," something along those lines. So no, but not, I mean, I meant that.
No, I understand what you're saying.
How does it do that? How does it get
people? By the way, Tulio, we've toyed with many other variants on the thing you just described. I think my favorite one is, my son said, we were talking about how to give somebody feedback who's talking too much. I think people who talk too little, I think there's a shared responsibility between the people who are dominating and that person who has not yet found a way to participate. You've got to stop talking in order for that person to come in. It's not just their responsibility to make an entree and get in there. So anyway, but one of the things he was saying, my son was giving me feedback about, he's like, well, if somebody's talking too much, you should just take their video and just keep making it smaller and smaller and smaller on the screen until it disappears. And then when it's gone, they have to stop. You just cut their microphone off, and then they can't talk anymore.
An X, like an American Got Talent X, just across your whole face. 3X.
Yeah, obviously we didn't implement that, but anyway, I understand your point nonetheless, which is that we are really we're really interested in giving people feedback that is not hostile, it's not critical, and it's also not assuming of any specific condition. It's a nudge. It's very subtle. And we tell people in real time that we have this item on screen that's called a meeting mediator. And the meeting mediator has a subtle piece of feedback. It's not even words, it's just a visual that shows you where the strength of the conversation is at any given moment. So if, Tulio, you and I are going back and forth and this ball in the middle kind of moves toward us, when we have a more balanced dialogue, the ball is in the middle. And that's where you sort of get your feedback that says, oh, hey, we're in a pretty good place now. We got a little balance. We got some people talking, some people listening, a good flow between members, and that's what the subtle feedback gives you.
Very cool. Very cool. So going back a little bit too, to like what you're talking about with designing and how you guys actually like this meter and the AI and all of these different things, like this, like you're using all of this stuff to make sure that not only is it inclusive for people, but you guys are actually measuring engagement, measuring, I don't know if the word's efficiency in this case, but really like, like engagement efficiency, making sure that people are involved. Do you guys have it? Do you guys have any sort of feedback like afterwards to make sure that people actually retained the information?
Well, we don't go for, we don't have a content model that is based on retention of information. What we have is a content model that's based on application of information. So if we're in a course together, it's less relevant, although certainly still relevant, how many of the tiny little details I've retained from the class in order to then perfectly play them back to you, right? We're not studying for an LSAT exam here, right? We're talking about responding to digital disruption, right? We're talking about responding to technologies and new opportunities that are happening in lots of different industries everywhere. And so in that case, what you want to do is take all that guiding content and you want to find, you want to get feedback from people that says, hey, what I learned today or this last 6 weeks in this course, I immediately applied it in my workplace the next day. I was thinking about something, or somebody came to me with that fear around some piece of technology or a paralysis around how to move in order to take advantage of a piece of technology or to respond to something that's disrupting the way that we work. And I was able to apply these concepts immediately in my workplace. That to us, that's success, where when we talk with our learners about what they get out of the classes.
More mind-blowing revelations. Like I always like I'm totally thinking like old school, like SATs and ACTs, right?
No.
And you're like already beyond that. You're like, no, we're not going to give you a quiz. Like you're going to actually go apply this in your job tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And the details are important. It's not that they're not relevant. It's that if you don't then take them and synthesize them with a new way of thinking about the problem, a new set of confidence or sensibility about helping an organization understand the depth and breadth of something that's happening. Like, let's take AI. We have quite a few courses in AI leadership. How do you develop a strategy around data? How do you apply AI systems that are human assistive? Like, how does that work in the workplace? We've got a number of courses around this. And there is no topic that creates more fear in people in the workplace than AI. Like, it's going to be used to, as my professor mentor at MIT when I worked in the human dynamics lab, Sandy Pentland, always likes to say, you shouldn't fear that the robot overlords are coming. But it's easy to say that in that sort of glib way. And there is really deep-seated fear that AI has no boundaries, that it is, something that's going to be unthinking, that it's going to be applied in a way that diminishes people, that it's going to be applied in a way that marginalizes, certain populations and is not fair. All the stuff, right? Everything, all the governance and ethics and application and all the things that people worry about. And so what we really want when people come out of these courses is to understand that whole set of nuanced ways of thinking about AI. And then the next AI challenge that comes along, they're like, I got this. I understand the context. I've spoken to a lot of different kinds of people in the context of this collaborative community that what got developed inside this Esme course. And now I can approach the topic without fear. And I know how to include others in this dialogue so that I have a broad perspective. And I know that when something new happens, that I spearhead, that I'm going to get people to welcome that. because I've done the work.
You know, Beth, that resistance is futile, right? Assimilation with the Borg is inevitable. No, this idea that we're talking about, what being inclusive show up, it's helping them make what they're learning or what they're participating in different contexts or higher means. What I'm hearing is that, but to get them involved in other things that they would have otherwise not, if that's happening. Like, do you have?
Program, by the way, we survey people at the end of the course and really try, what are you going to do with this material? How is it going to change what you're doing? And we are constantly improving courses out in the world, and we've got to keep pace, right? Like AI, blockchain, and those top gotta be really what we ask people about is, what did you do when you to lead a team with more so they were able to lead from sort of titular leader and help catalyze change in their organ. That seemed so far asp, but with this new sound forces are for people to create a startup from the ground. Those are the kinds of feedback that we get. So us that they are taking.
Go check out that site. That's where you can learn all about it.
Yep.
It's been really eye-opening what we've learned here today. Entrepreneur, any words of educators that have some great taking the leap towards building an ed tech product or service?
And never underestimate your own ability. Learner guide you. A lot of instructional moment, right? There are for the learner, and particularly with adult respect, right? They know a lot, even if it's not a lot in this. And I think this is also a lesson for people, the people who work in your companies, those a lot. And even if they don't know this, really learn how to respect and harness what they know, and then learn the new technology, the new history and experience on the cutting room floor when you're trying to move briskly with new technology. To say, you can teach I'm an old dog, you can teach an old dog new tricks, and you've got to give your employees some respect, and not just about, diversity, kind of person and their sensibilities and all the ways in which they learn everybody to that dialogue, and not and doing it with great purpose and with great conviction and with, with a real goal in mind, but not leaving people behind, really trying to pull people ahead so that they can all be part of the new.
Awesome. Sounds like a good first step for those folks is to visit, jump onto and adopt. So thanks for watching, Maria from Peru. We've got some comments coming in on the chat. We're wrapping up now. It's the end of the broadcast. We're up on time. Stay with us as we go off the air. Just announce you what we got coming up for the rest of the week. We have 3 shows this week. We have on Thursday, Bridget Smith, who's the CTO at PlanWho. I hope I said that correctly. And then on Friday, we have Rohin Parkar, who's the CEO at Spintly. It's an interesting embedded embedded device software platform. So come back Thursday at 11:15 a.m. Pacific, 1:15 p.m. Central, and we'll see you guys then. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.